These storms are looking even more severe than expected for the next few days, and it's going to be pretty widespread in terms of the activity from the plains to the east coast. That's why this video is going to give you that critical update on this ring of fire weather pattern from the heat to the storms, with day-by-day severe risk tracking and my custom graphics right here.
One Nation Weather.
If you want to track the weather with the same maps that I used right there in the intro to this video, the one you see on screen right now, any of these, they are from WeatherBell. Check out their free trial link right down there in the description to get them yourself. Also, if you're new to the channel, I deliver consistent, accurate, and educational updates in about 10 to 15 minutes each video, so if you want to subscribe, consider doing that below as we push towards 5,000 followers. Let me know where you're watching from down below, and if you have any questions, there are timestamps in the description so you can skip ahead to a specific part of the video if you want to do that. All of those reminders are through. Let's go ahead and get right into that future radar overview for the next few days, as there's new information coming out regarding some of these storms that we're going to have overnight tonight on our Monday night. So I'm filming this on your Monday evening. Going overnight tonight and into our Tuesday morning, these two areas, we're probably going to have some storms lingering around. The European model agrees on it, with the short-range guidance as well. So from Michigan to Ohio, down to Tennessee, some of these storms possibly severe in isolated fashion. We could even see a brief tornado into the evening and overnight of our Monday in parts of Indiana, Illinois, Kentucky. We'll be watching those storms over to the Dakotas as well as in Nebraska and Iowa overnight tonight as well, as they will help to fuel what will be a later day threat on Tuesday. In fact, you can really see that evolving. I'll talk about that a little bit more in just a second, but I do want to point out the fact that on our Tuesday afternoon, we are going to have quite a bit of run-of-the-mill garden variety downpours and some of the lightning that will come along with it here for the East Coast. So from Maine and all the way on over there back towards parts of New York and Ohio and Pennsylvania, back down to the Carolinas and Georgia. We'll be watching some of those storms Tuesday afternoon. We could see a few go strong to severe in that mix. The best chance for severe weather on our Tuesday afternoon and evening, though, and the main reason why I'm filming this video is going to be this more widespread swath or chain where we could see some of the stronger storms extending from the north central plains all the way down here to parts of Minnesota, Iowa, and into Illinois. We will be watching the potential for multiple clusters of damaging winds, some hail, and even a few tornadoes through the afternoon and evening there. You see that wanes overnight, but then look at this as we go towards Wednesday. We've got some new low pressure to track. Wednesday afternoon and evening, a little bit quieter, still some storms in the east, but it's going to be a lot more active just for the plains on Wednesday than anywhere else. As you can see here, the Dakotas, Minnesota, parts of Nebraska, Iowa, even into northern Kansas, northern Missouri, over to Illinois and Wisconsin. Wouldn't rule you guys out for some of these severe storms. This is that best chance area for more of those damaging winds. That could continue eastward into our Thursday. And then here we go, late Thursday, heading into our early Friday, yet another round according to this European model. The GFS model overall agrees that sometime and somewhere here, Thursday going into Friday, around the Great Lakes, we are going to have more severe thunderstorms popping on up. This could include several clusters, as you see there on this European model. One there maybe near West Virginia, one maybe near Michigan, one maybe near Illinois. A little uncertain exactly where these could be, but definitely be prepared for the storms. Then we'll play it all again Friday afternoon in many areas of the Mid-Atlantic, and then Saturday afternoon some storms extending really all along through those East Coast states. Something that I'll be tracking a little bit later on in the week. But let's go ahead and look at our Tuesday, July 30th of 2024. Again, I'll look at Wednesday, Thursday, all the days. Use those timestamps in the description if you want to skip ahead to a specific point in time. But this is our Tuesday, and this is my custom ONW severe scale, a level 1 to 7 severe weather scale, showing where the best threats for severe weather are going to be. And on Tuesday, it's looking like the best chances for severe weather are going to be up there in the Dakotas, and then we're also going to have a secondary zone down there that looks a little bit more widespread from parts of Iowa down there to Tennessee. Both of these spots, a level 3 of 7 for scattered severe weather, driven by the possibility of damaging winds as the main threat, some isolated scattered hail, as well as maybe even a brief spin-up tornado somewhere there between Iowa and Illinois. In fact, I did consider through that zone of the Midwest a level 4 of 7 for more significant severe weather, but early day storms are actually limiting my decision on that. Anywhere from the Carolinas to the Dakotas, though, you need to be prepared for some severe storms late on our Tuesday, and here is why. Look at all that storm energy we're going to have, fueled on up by some of that daytime heating on the periphery of our ring of fire, or ridge, which is down there, Oklahoma, Texas, as well as into the higher plains. You see there from Sioux Falls, South Dakota, all the way down there to Nashville and Knoxville and Tennessee, we're going to have this pocket. Using that key on the bottom of your screen, you can notice that this pocket of energy is quite moderate to strong. You know, those whites are really maxing it out that you see on the bottom of the key on the bottom right side of your screen. So once you get into the reds and purples, you're getting pretty high up already. So from Iowa to Illinois to Missouri, that's why I considered you as the highest threat, because you're going to have the most storm energy, and consequently you can get some of the most storms to tap into that and become severe. Speaking of those storms, let's go ahead and take a look at some future radar guidance from the HRRR model. This is one solution. Do not trust your life with it, but it certainly shows us as we go towards our Tuesday morning. This is around 9, 10, 11 o'clock in the morning. We could definitely have some thunder boomers ongoing there in parts of Nebraska, Iowa, southern Minnesota. Some of these could briefly produce some damaging winds or some hail. Because we're in the morning and it's summer and we don't have necessarily as much wind shear going on, which is changing of winds in the atmosphere, the tornado threat with these should remain on the very low side. Not zero, but pretty low. And then from there, what's interesting is that this particular model anyway keeps these storms pretty strong as they continue through the afternoon through southeast Iowa into central and eastern Missouri, parts of central Illinois, around the Springfield area as well. We could be watching some damaging winds, some hail, and maybe even an isolated tornado or two as this storm line continues southeastward. I think we're definitely going to have storms here around the middle of the afternoon in this area, but they could be a little weaker than this model shows. Either way, though, we're going to continue to see those push towards probably southern Illinois by the time the sun sets on our Tuesday, if they're not already there by then. Down here to Kentucky, Tennessee, some parts of North Georgia, the Western Carolinas as well. This general area will probably have quite a bit of late-day storms, some of which may be severe. And that's why on my ONW severe scale graphic, I actually had that level 3 of 7 for scattered severe storms extending all the way down there into Tennessee. Regardless of what those storms do, at least according to this model, we're going to have a pretty untapped environment back behind them as we'll still have enough daytime heating to work with. So in Iowa, parts of Missouri, and Illinois, we'll probably see some new storms fire up at some point. Not necessarily as disorganized as this shows, but definitely a line or two, maybe even multiple lines, not only producing the threat for some of the damaging winds, isolated hail, and isolated tornadoes, but we could watch a flood threat out of some of these storms since we will have already had some earlier day activity, multiple rounds. By the time we go into our early Wednesday morning, that means trouble in terms of the flood threat. Now, as we go towards Wednesday afternoon into the evening and overnight, we're going to be watching a new severe weather threat, and this is going to be that little system pushing out into the plains I showed you back on the future radar. Scattered severe weather appears likely in some areas of the Midwest Wednesday, some possibly significant if a mesoscale convective system or MCS develops, since these types of thunderstorm clusters can produce some 60 to 80 plus mile per hour wind gusts. The strongest piece of jet stream energy will likely traverse the area surrounding Iowa, and that's why the biggest threat for mainly damaging winds will be in that zone. Any of those areas, though, from the upper Midwest over to the Ohio Valley that are at least in the dark gray need to be prepared for isolated severe weather Wednesday. Let's go ahead and take a quick look at what the future radar early on from some of our kind of mid-range guidance in the NAM model shows. This is as we go towards the middle of our afternoon, 3, 4, 5 o'clock on our Wednesday. Notice some of those lingering storms left over down there towards Indiana from our Tuesday night and early Wednesday. Now we've got new storms also back on over there in parts of Minnesota, maybe South Dakota, Nebraska, firing up throughout the rest of the afternoon and evening. And look, right in that area, I've got the level 3 of 7. We're going to have the most storm energy. We're going to have these possible little lines that are going to try and bow out, producing the damaging winds on their leading edges. So they're in southern Minnesota, parts of northern Iowa, over there into parts of eastern Nebraska, northeastern Kansas, a lot of the state of Iowa, really, northern Missouri, into Illinois, and even, parts of Wisconsin as we go through the evening and overnight. Wednesday into early Thursday. We'll definitely be watching some of the storms there before we see even more storms fire up in the Ohio Valley Thursday afternoon. Let's take a look at the mid-level jet stream about at that 500 millibar level, which is 15 to 20,000 feet on up there in the atmosphere. Using the European model, it's going to show us day by day where some of our best storm chances are going to be. Just want to rehash that on Tuesday. The Midwest is going to be that focal zone, Iowa, Illinois, surrounding spots, and this is why we're going to have some of those brighter blues, those greens moving over the area, indicating some 30 to 40 to 50 knot mid-level jet stream winds. That's enough to produce some of that severe weather. I'm actually a little more concerned about Wednesday's threat in some of those areas. I think that could end up going maybe towards a level 4 of 7 on my ONW severe scale, somewhere around the Iowa vicinity, as this little trough, you see that little dip in those lines coming out of Montana down there to Nebraska. Right between those arrows, that's where we're going to have some of the strongest jet stream energy moving on through. Right out ahead of those arrows is where you get some of the best chances for severe weather, as we could see a mesoscale convective system maybe even turn towards a derecho if it lasts long enough, which is just a long-lived damaging wind and isolated hail/tornado type event. We'll have to watch that late Wednesday heading into early Thursday, and then by Thursday afternoon we'll have yet another round of storms to contend with on the leading edge of this jet stream piece of energy. Now that energy is going to be making its way right over Iowa and Illinois. Remember, though, the threats are normally on the southeastern side of pieces of energy like this. That's what I always teach in these videos. So over there, Illinois, Indiana, Ohio, that might be the best area on Thursday. And as we go towards Friday, Saturday, and pushing more towards the mid-Atlantic and the East Coast. In fact, here's that Thursday severe zones graphic. This shows you where I have the highest confidence in specific levels on that severe scale I was using earlier in the video. The most likely isolated coverage of severe weather is going to be from Iowa all the way in over there to Pennsylvania Thursday, but the best chance for a level 3 of 7 for scattered severe weather on Thursday looks to be right ahead of that jet stream energy in Indiana and Ohio. So I'll be on the lookout in those areas. Thursday could certainly be a pretty significant day for some severe storms there. Heading out of the Ohio Valley into the mid-Atlantic, that's where the best chance for some isolated severe weather coverage is going to be going into our Friday. Keep in mind, just because you're not in a color on the screen does not mean you're not going to see severe weather. All it means is that I just don't have enough confidence in a more organized severe weather threat for you. Going towards Saturday, I was kind of debating not even pinning this down, but it looks like somewhere in the mid-Atlantic area, that's where the best chance will be. So along the East Coast, really all day Saturday, we'll have to be on the lookout for some lingering storms from Friday night, and then throughout Saturday, some new storms firing on up. So just be alert, especially there in the mid-Atlantic, but all along the East Coast. As this ring of fire continues to produce those storms, now let's go ahead and track the ring of fire temperatures. I'm skipping over tomorrow, which is our Tuesday. Let's go ahead and jump over to our Wednesday, which is very similar to Tuesday anyway. The afternoon high temperature is looking to be the hottest right under this dome right here. If you live through the eastern parts of New Mexico, Colorado, through Nebraska and Iowa, points southbound, lots of 90s. We could be near a record high there in the boxes in parts of Texas, Oklahoma, New Mexico, as triple-digit heat will be pretty common throughout some of these zones. We'll also be watching temperatures near 100 in Nashville, Tennessee. That could certainly break a record if we reach that kind of heat Wednesday afternoon. That could also help to fuel up some scattered storms, at least, even if they don't necessarily go severe. Here we go towards our Thursday. Not too much of a change from Wednesday. By the time we go towards Friday, though, we'll start to notice some of these areas up here coming out of the Mountain West into some of the northern high plains zones. Fill in with more 90s, some triple-digit heat as well. 99, 99, 100, you see some of those numbers in those areas. We'll have similar numbers in even some higher spots, temperature-wise, back here into the far western U.S., a lot of the valley locations getting well into that 100 to 110 plus degree range. Meanwhile, in the east, keeping a little cooler further north and east, and some of that will be thunderstorm induced up there in Wisconsin, Michigan, over to Maine, mid 80s up there, whereas we're in the mid to upper 90s in a lot of the southeast, closing in on some of those records as heat is really going to be keeping things around 5 to 10 degrees above average for much of the country by Friday. As we go towards Saturday, a little bit cooler through the Midwest to the Ohio Valley behind some of those storms that will now be especially right along that East Coast corridor. Notice the mid-Atlantic and southeast well into the mid and upper 90s. That's going to fuel some of those storms in the afternoon. Still, though, some triple-digit heat back towards the plains. We'll continue to see heat building in the valleys of the west, so it's not over yet over there either. Speaking of not over yet, this storm is definitely just beginning in parts of the tropics, as we're probably going to have an invest out of this very soon. This little area to watch making its way towards parts of the far northern Caribbean through the Bahamas area by the time we go out of the end of this week towards the weekend ahead. Florida, Georgia, the Carolinas, I want you to be on alert heading out of the weekend towards the early part of next week, because we could certainly see a graze of maybe a tropical depression or storm based on some of our ensemble members. I covered that and a lot more in my previous video as well, some of the temperatures in more detail, some of the flooding threats for the next several days in more detail. So make sure you check that video out as well. There's a link to it in the description. That's going to be it for this one, though. This was just a quick critical update on severe weather for the next several days across the USA. I'll be back with my next update fairly soon, so if you want to get that when it's consistent, accurate, and educational for you, make sure you're subscribing down below. We're at 4,760 followers now. Love to be at 5,000 soon. I'll see you in the next update video. Love you guys, mean it, but I'm out of here. Bye.
One nation weather.